So, this today, not just most probably, but actually kind of without a doubt, is gonna be my most negative review, and here's the tricky part, of a device that I can actually totally recommend. And as strange as this might sound, for you to get where I'm coming from, I have to start at the beginning. Back when this phone, the Xiaomi Mi A1, was released already as the Xiaomi Mi 5X with MIUI and a price tag of about $270 or 220 euros. Back then, that combo just wasn't quite good enough for me to give it my full recommendation. But now, or already like let's say 1 or 2 months ago, this was released as the A1 as a phone being a partner of the Android One program. The price at the moment already is down to $200 or 170 euros. And all that definitely made me change my mind about if I can recommend it or not, because I've already said it, I can. I still have the same issues with the phone, which I will give you in this review as well, but it will be obvious why I can still recommend it once you've seen this video. So let's get into the first thing. What didn't I like on the Xiaomi 5X? It was the boring design, because this phone looks like at least 10 other Chinese imported phones. Very similar, a little bit dull, just like an iPhone, but kind of wannabe clone, and this is what I had an issue with, because otherwise the build quality is top notch, buttons are placed very well, they click well, and everything else, smooth transitions, absolutely no problem with the build quality, besides maybe the fact that the back is super slippery. Sides are okay then as well. As we can see, we also have the fingerprint reader, which works super reliable, even though it's maybe not the fastest one. We have a notification LED, but just white. Otherwise, we have of course the cameras with the flash, even an RR blaster microphone, SD card and SIM card tray, already USB Type-C, yes, that's nice to see always, and speaker, headphone jack, and everything else, along with the capacitive buttons that light up. So, like I said, everything executed very well. The design is a very subjective and personal thing of mine, and I just can't quite get fully behind it. The next thing though, the display. Since this is running stock Android, there is no option to change the saturation, which is my one gripe, because at around 500 lux, this is still bright enough. I would say the viewing angles are stable, it's also quite clear enough, and the overall qualities of the display are good, but I would wish for a little bit more saturation, because even though this display is quite natural, most other phones that I have here are just noticeably more appealing due to having a little bit more saturation, a little bit more vivid colors. This is the only thing that I could say against it. Same as, for example, similar to the sound now. The position here at the bottom is fine, it's nothing spectacular though, and the maximum volume is good enough, it's nothing groundbreaking. What is though actually insanely loud are the notifications for some reason. But the sound on its own is, I would say, yeah, good. It's okay, fairly well balanced, doesn't sound thin, but also not super rich, it's good. The headphone jack, which is still here on this phone, can't be adjusted in the settings because we don't have the MIUI optimizations. So what you still get is at least potentially a really good headphone jack in terms of quality, but you don't have the optimizations or something like that anymore, which is okay though. Now let's get into the performance. And the one comment that I got the most every time someone talks about the Mi A1 is that now running stock Android, it performs noticeably better than anything else with a skin, like for example the Mi 5X. And I can tell you, absolutely honestly and objectively, that this performs about 99% the same as the Mi 5X. I think the last update, like 2 or 3 days ago, maybe gave it a little bit of the upper hand, like by a little bit. That doesn't really change the fact that this is still a very smooth, kind of consistent, fast enough, snappy phone that still has a little bit of some issues with a minor occasional lag. That is still visible. So it seems like a little bit more of this occasional lag is gone with the latest update, but other than that, it doesn't feel faster, the multitasking doesn't feel any better. It is still a totally capable, really nice phone. But that was already the case with the Mi 5X running MIUI, so here nothing has really changed. Same as also for the battery life. Because back then when I said like 5 hours, now I am at 5 hours to 5.5 hours of mobile data. And that half hour that it seems to give you more now is actually just due to the fact that I've turned off notifications for YouTube Studio since then, which is something that I noticed that on every other phone I get a little bit more battery life. So not even here is something improved. Neither the standby drain nor the normal drain or anything else has changed. So this just proves me one thing. This phone now being a partner phone of the Android One program, maybe bloat free. Because as you can see, this is absolutely nice and it gets all the benefits of the Android One program. But underneath, even MIUI is still MIUI, which is running Android. And I think the optimizations are pretty much just the same. It just doesn't look the same. What you get, and I don't really want to get into all of the things because this is stock Android. I don't really have to explain that we have the stock launcher, that we have, for example, things like the quick settings and so on. What I want to go into are the important differences for people. With Android One, you get 3 years of security updates and you get promised to get 2 major updates of Android versions. This is the important part. Also, no bloat. And you have already all international languages available and all that. You don't have to flash if you don't want to or anything like that. I would still say the same thing as I do on every stock Android phone. For me, it's a little bit too limited, a little bit dull. I would wish for a little bit more options, which I actually get on MIUI. And that's why I would personally, even though MIUI is definitely not perfect, prefer it. But that's definitely personal preference, and it's good that this phone was released this way because it definitely gives them more broader attention to a worldwide program, because now people will maybe get attention or get notice of Xiaomi, which they wouldn't have maybe with MIUI. But that's okay. Now let's get into the software. Just real quick, the camera. Actually, I want to go into the camera, not the software. It's the exact same software as on the Xiaomi Mi 5X. Nothing has changed. So we still have the 2x zoom, the portrait mode, and all those toggles for HDR and so on. So we don't have to get into that. This is exactly the same software. Now let's get into the pictures just real quick, because I don't want to make this review any longer than it has to be. As you can see here, low light, okay, yeah, it's not that great. Outside, didn't have the greatest weather, but you can see the pictures look good, they look fine. For this price range, absolutely what you would expect. A little bit flaky though, I have to say. For some reason, I had quite a lot of misfires. And what was actually more an issue for me than the actual quality was that the autofocus was so weird, because it actually focuses a little bit too far and then goes back, and it always has this weird annoying pump that I just don't like. As you can see here, the HDR mode works okay, works just as on the Mi 5X, and the quality is good, but the camera still has the same issues, and this is something that they should a little bit get fixed in the future, is make it more reliable, because too many shots were just not what I expected them to turn out once I've seen them. Here, for example, with the zoom, the 2x zoom is something that doesn't really look any better than if you would just make the normal picture and then crop it, and HDR looks like it is. So yeah, it's a totally capable shooter, absolutely no problems at all. But yeah, same also goes for the selfies. They look nice and they have potential to be very good without any issues. But also, once again, as you can see, a lot of blurry shots, which is just a general thing of this camera. Yeah, this is just what it is. Now let's quickly go through a few more. Low light capabilities are fine, just as about here as well. So nothing has changed, which is actually a little bit sad. I would have wished for some improvements over time, but it doesn't happen. Now also, I gotta say, 4K, I'm not impressed. Too much pump, the autofocus loses attention. It's also very shaky because no proper stabilization. It doesn't look super sharp, so I am not impressed with this video cam. I don't really know. The video cam definitely isn't all that great. And yeah, 1080p, I don't really have to get into that. And selfie video and all that. So I would say, let me just switch if I find the mouse cursor. Okay. Quick summary out of my head. Yes. Build quality is top. Design boring, but good. The display also actually kind of almost very good, but a little bit washed out. So this is where it kind of stays just really good. The speaker is good, absolutely no problem. Also the headphone jack, the performance is on a very good level after all. Like all other 625, 626 or 630 phones. Not really a bigger issue or differences, but it's not better either. So just to keep that in mind. Battery life, since it has a 3080 milliamp hour battery, so 3080 milliamp hours, which is the size of usually 5.2 inches. It's just not as good as these, like for example the Moto X4, Moto G5 or HTC U11 Live. Therefore it has the bigger screen. And considering that screen and the battery size, even though it kind of looks like they could have fit in more if I look at the Xiaomi Mi Note 3, which has the bigger battery and the smaller chassis. So yeah, it's not the most compact phone for what it is, but the battery life is still absolutely very good. Software, I guess that's the most important part for everyone here, and this is kind of what makes this phone so appealing. Android One, that's the big thing here. Xiaomi qualities with Android One. And that's actually kind of the reason, besides the camera I've said already, talked just about it, so I don't have to get into that, why I can easily recommend this phone. I am a big fan of Xiaomi hardware. I'm also quite okay with the software. In this case, the hardware just doesn't feel like Xiaomi for me. And that's kind of what explains me, or at least now, is the reason why this phone, as the Mi 5X, already looked out of place. I thought this doesn't look like any other Xiaomi phone. I get it, because with the Android One program, they wanted to get a phone out on the international market, make it look appealing to every international customership, because if you make a phone that looks like every other phone and doesn't try something maybe too far in one direction, you won't distract anyone, even though the appeal will be quite broadly available. And this is what they have achieved, because it is a phone that definitely visually is appealing for the biggest part of the world. The price now, I just have to give it to that. $200 for this package is crazy hard to beat, and just something like maybe an Huawei, an Honor 7X now here in the US will get very close. But then I actually think I would prefer this, even though we don't have the full vision display and so on, because the qualities are still very good. Now, keep in mind that the Honor 7X is a hard competitor these days, because it has the full vision display, it has the better camera and so on, display actually a little bit weaker and so on. So that's, I would say, the strongest competitor. But believe me, you want Android One definitely way more than you would ever want EMUI. So yeah, like I said, easy recommendation, even though I'm just not fully behind it on my own. Personally, it just doesn't give me anything, mostly due to the design and the display being a little bit on the dull side. But the rest, the important factors are there. It's super solid, no real breakouts into any sort of negatives, and yeah, you get great value, a great software experience for a long time, and this is what most people want. And if I see that objectively, not as the kind of tech nerd, I have to fully give it to them, and that's where I'm gonna leave it. Okay, until next time, bye.